Well, this sucks. So I'm talking about this specifically because I do think this is actually a very big news to talk about when it comes to wrestling news. So it has come to announce that WrestleMania 42 will no longer be taking place at New Orleans, even though The Rock literally appeared that one time on SmackDown. He made his return to SmackDown earlier this year, the same SmackDown where literally, unfortunately, which kind of was revealed that, hey, we need you, Rock. We need you to rock this the sell Elimination Chamber because we have low ticket sales. WWE has not, like, since The Rock went on the Pat McAfee show, a lot of people who kind of were praising The Rock and WWE in general kind of fell down because of this, and unfortunately, everything that The Rock did this past year in 2025 has now been wasted. Look, like, again, it all started with the whole Cena heel turn. He was a part of Cena's heel turn, the biggest heel turn in the modern day, and it ended up being a joke because he was not there, even though he was, again, part of the freaking heel turn. Two, um, again, not showing up WrestleMania, and wanting to take Cody's soul and all that kind of stuff. That amounts to nothing now. Saying he's like one step ahead or 20 steps ahead, blah blah blah. It's a joke. That's not true. And three, now him announcing WrestleMania was gonna be in New Orleans is a joke. What a joke that is. Like, so he literally had this entire segment back in February is a joke because it amounts to nothing now. So basically, they wasted the entire Rock existence of 2025 with WWE. It's wasted. It's freaking wasted. But that's a different topic, like, really, because this is kind of sad. If you saw the joke video I made, again, that's a joke, right? I remember when I was young, I thought WrestleMania 30 was going to be in New York, but they ended up going to New Orleans, and I kind of hated New Orleans for that, but it's not really, New Orleans' fault or whatever, because WWE decided to go whatever the highest bidder is, unfortunately. But, and that's unfortunately have gotten worse. So that's the sad reaction. WWE, rather than sticking to tradition, right, or at least, like, going with what they kind of adapted since lately with WrestleMania, making it a bitter state, making it an attraction event where they try to give people a chance to, like, whatever the highest bidder. Even though, in my opinion, WrestleMania should always be a show where they try to you know go to every state possible in the U.S. or heck, even outside of the U.S. with Toronto. I actually don't mind one day if WrestleMania was to go to an international state like Europe and whatever. I would not mind that. It's just, again, if only the smarks are not, smarky, but whatever. I do think, yes, a chance would be great. Um, but yeah, WWE wants to go with the highest bidders and shit like that. It's kind of a darn shame because now that just makes WWE greedy. Now, WWE is even more greedy with unfortunately which with this whole TKO partnership. They're unfortunately being very WWE has decided to be very greedy now, where because they're a partnership with TKO, but this is not even like a WWE thing. This is actually more so a TKO issue. I said this when WWE was brought by Endeavor, and they're gonna this whole TKO partnership. While originally it would have been good because, again, Vince McMahon would still be a part of WWE, whatever. Vince McMahon has that old school mindset still. Unfortunately, WWE is no longer going to be like old school. Like, they're going to go with, unfortunately, where the money is at, which I understand as a business, but at the same time, you got to have ethics, okay? Unfortunately, WWE will no longer be about ethics. They, for some reason, and I think this is absolutely kind of sad and pathetic, all right? WWE literally announced that they're going to have this show in New Orleans, okay? It was already announced. And now they're backtracking it. Now they're no longer going to New Orleans just because of reasons. Like, so apparently, there's no word yet, but they just decided, hey, we're not going to go to New Orleans anymore. And the big indication why they're no longer going to New Orleans is because they're being offered more money to have WrestleMania literally the same year that they announced that New Orleans was supposed to have WrestleMania. And I'm just thinking to myself, how does that make any goddamn sense? You know? And how kind of sad and pathetic is that? You make people who, not only the people in New Orleans, right? The people who live in New Orleans were excited. Again, you wasted a second. This is why also I kind of like, I did not like The Rock announcing WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans, because you never know what can happen. And turns out, literally, look what happened. WrestleMania is not happening in New Orleans. Like, how sad is that? So the fact that you did that, the fact that they literally wasted a segment with The Rock and just basically not fulfilling that promise, I don't get it. So basically, New Orleans was, again, going to have WrestleMania 42. But for some goddamn reason, WWE decided that they will no longer be in New Orleans. Really, because apparently they decided that they want more money. They're trying to, they're being offered more money, and there's word now that WrestleMania might be going back to Las Vegas. Like, what? Like, okay, here's the deal. I won't be mad if, again, you didn't already announce that WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans. Like, that's some fucking, like, some shit move right there, that is like equivalent to a chick leaving their fucking they're leaving their fucking boyfriend for another guy. They're leaving the guy at the altar for another guy. That's some fucking bitch move, bro. That's some fucking chick. That's some fucking hoe shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's some fucking hoe shit right there. Like, holy crap. You literally are moving. You're just because of what? Like, apparently the reason why Las Vegas is like the high bidder now is because supposedly WWE. But this is kind of also backstage politics. This is the problem. WWE TKO. TKO in general, like, they run UFC. They're based in Las Vegas, so that's one reason. Nick Khan's in Las Vegas, so basically, kind of a little bit of nepotism, a little bit of favoritism, because they want to make this easier for them. Yeah, that's basically why. Instead of making WrestleMania a destination attraction, even though they kind of ruined that idea by having bids for WrestleMania and not really sticking too much to tradition, but not even giving a lot of other places a chance. Like, I get it. WrestleMania New Orleans. Like, New Orleans already had, like, WrestleMania 30, WrestleMania 34, right? I mean, I do think, like, really, why would New Orleans get another WrestleMania kind of this soon, I do think, like, why not have them wait a little bit? But at the same time, it's like, man, you're going back to Vegas, and there's word that they're going to try to make Vegas, the permanent location for WrestleMania for, like, the time being. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why? And supposedly the reason why they're doing this is because they want to make Vegas, like, this is Vegas' plan of making WrestleMania, of making their city, their state, the top, like, sports freaking location in the world. So that could cost a lot of fans from not being able to go to their local WrestleManias if they're nearby or even enjoying it. They won't be able to because they have to freaking settle for Las Vegas, unfortunately, for like the next few years, or if not who knows, even forever, unfortunately. And like, that is some bullshit right there. That is some fucking bullshit. Like, talk about being greedy. So Las Vegas is going to be the highest bidder. And I'm just thinking to myself, if this is the case that Las Vegas is the highest bidder, why not just give them WrestleMania 43 then? Why not just go back to WrestleMania 43 in Las Vegas? And you're just going to basically, like, give New Orleans the freaking, the cold shoulder. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sorry, but that is just not only greedy, but that is just fucking sad and pathetic. And then, New Orleans, you're not going to WrestleMania anymore, but we'll give you Money in the Bank. Like, what? So Money in the Bank is now. So because of this, Triple H did not say sorry. He didn't say, I'm sorry, New Orleans. This is what Triple H did, and this is why Triple H is not, like, innocent. I do think who's at fault is, again, unfortunately, TKO is at fault for this. I do think that TKO is proving that, what I said, that this is the worry of, like, when WWE's no longer going to be owned by the McMahons and shit like that. This is what's going to happen, because Vince McMahon would not do this. Vince McMahon would not pull that bitch move that, hey, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get this WrestleMania, but hey, we're gonna backtrack on that, we don't, it's not like gonna be like, a chick, leaving you at the altar, or calling off the engagement because she'll go back to some fucking boyfriend that she, that treat her like shit or whatever. You know what I mean? it's like that, for fuck's sakes. Unfortunately, that's what this host shit, bro. This is host shit. So Triple H is not this is, it's Triple H, it's The Rock, it's TKO, it's WWE, it's everyone in fucking WWE that's kind of ruining, and this is gonna ruin the fandom, okay? I'm telling you. I'm gonna explain why. So New Orleans, instead, they're getting the consolation prize where they're gonna host New Orleans. They're gonna host Money in the Bank in 2026. But it's gonna be like after SummerSlam? Like what? So SummerSlam is, not Summer. So Money in the Bank's gonna be after SummerSlam, because it's already announced that last year. It's already announced that SummerSlam's gonna get freaking Indianapolis. I'm surprised that they did not just say, hey, we're gonna freaking switch the SummerSlam to instead they're gonna get SummerSlam. I'm surprised that didn't happen. And I would not be surprised that's gonna be the future issue, where they're gonna probably promise, hey, you're gonna get this certain city, or this certain city is gonna get WrestleMania, or this certain place is going to get freaking, this pay-per-view, but we're going to backtrack because, we're getting more money, and screw you fans that make already these plans. You booked your flights, you booked whatever for next year. Fuck that. We're going to fucking go because we got money out and shit like that, man. Shit. Which is like, what the hell? That's really messed up, and that's going to ruin your fandom. That's going to ruin your fucking fandom. Like, really. But that's some bullshit, This consolation prize that they're basically doing, where they decide to give now New Orleans Money in the Bank. Like, oh, yeah, you'll get this, but you'll get WrestleMania in the future. Probably not. Probably not, because now they're going to try to, like, maybe stay in Las Vegas and just kind of, like, whatever. And that's, like, the worry. Like, no wonder they waited last year with WrestleMania, not announcing the event at WrestleMania, because that's what they would usually do. They instead waited like 2 or 3 weeks. They waited literally last year after WrestleMania to announce Las Vegas for WrestleMania. Looks like they might have to do that now, because if they're not clear of choosing a show, and this is kind of a bad thing too, because you should already be thinking where you're going to be for WrestleMania, because this is your biggest show of the year. And now they're, like, deciding somewhere else to go to WrestleMania. This is kind of bad. That's not what a business should do. It's kind of, like, messed up. So, but yeah, man, New Orleans getting Money in the Bank as a consolation prize. Like, I would have rather just give them SummerSlam or fucking something else. Like one of the big fours, Because this is just kind of, like, not fair. This is kind of, like, just, wow. Like, you can't just do that. I'm sorry. Like, this is going to lead to your fan base kind of declining, okay? And yes, the reason why WWE did this, they're sadly doing this because of money. That's the end of the day. And I understand, money is what needed in this world for business and shit. Like, I get it. But it's like, wow, it's greedy as hell, is without ethics. And if anything, like, okay, people want to talk about how WWE, like, who cares what, the fans say, because WWE's making record profits. You want to know how? Again, because of sponsors, because of, again, deals that are made, like, with WWE, like, with the media rights and shit like that. And also, again, this is where the fucking city is at fault. Keep in mind, WWE is going to be always the biggest wrestling promotion. So no wonder, like, New Orleans and Las Vegas and people are going to want, WrestleMania. But again, it's WrestleMania. They're going to want WrestleMania. Because WrestleMania, like or not, is the Super Bowl of wrestling. It is the Coachella of the music world and shit like that. That's why, they're going to have these people, they want WrestleMania, okay? That's what it is. They're going to, sell on that. So that's what WWE has going forward. They have at least WrestleMania to rely on, and that's how much you're gonna make a lot of money, because it is the biggest wrestling show of the year. That's where WWE does at least put a little bit of effort to, like, hey, it's WrestleMania, let's make this show the best possible for the sake of it. And that's where they'll probably rely on bringing the old stars and shit like that, right? But again, that's the thing, like, how long are you gonna have these stars living? Because not all these stars are gonna be around for much longer, or they're gonna be retired. They're gonna be able to walk and shit like that. Stone Cold might crash another ATV and probably hurt himself. For crying out loud. Are you gonna still rely on Stone Cold showing up at WrestleMania? I don't know. Like, there's so many wrongs for like you're doing right now, rather than focusing on making your shows good. Because again, if you want to guarantee yourself to have people coming to your show, why not also make the shows good? Why not? Because if anything, making your shows good brings more money. It makes more money. You have more ratings, you get more money. If you have people that are actually going to buy your ticket, you wouldn't need to fucking inflate the fucking prices. You just have more guaranteed money people spending to come. And again, this is the fucking problem. You were struggling to sell WrestleMania 41 this past year because your shitty ticket prices. Now you want to go back to Las Vegas? What are we doing? And I guess because, WWE don't care. Because they don't care about attracting the old casual viewers back. They don't care about getting their old fans back. They don't care about new fans or whatever. They're going to just rely on the fucking smarks. But here's the thing. Usually smarks don't have money. They're a bunch of geeky weirdos. And they're going to run out of their mommy and daddy's money, okay? And the only people that are going to be able to afford going to WrestleMania are these rich people that are so entitled. And not only that, the investors and sponsors. Because that's also why, unfortunately, like, why WrestleMania is no longer going to be for a normal person anymore. Because unfortunately, and this is where the secret behind the scenes is, they're going to have representatives of sponsors and people, and basically celebrities. They're going to make it a place where, like, only, like, a Coachella, it's like a Coachella thing, where it's, like, influencers are going there, and it's not going to be the normal, actual fan anymore. It's going to be just a kind of, like, a giant advertisement, unfortunately. That's the sad thing. It's never going to be for a normal person anymore. It's going to be just a type of show where influencers would go, celebrities, and, people and sponsors. Like, they may be a fan of wrestling, but they're going to be the only ones that are able to be allowed or be able to go to. And it might even be exclusive now. It will no longer be a show for the normal person, which is sad. That's a sad reality. That's what WrestleMania might actually end up being. Because unfortunately, that's what they're doing now with TKO. TKO is unfortunately with this whole high ticket prices. And the only way they're selling out and getting money is because of the sponsors. Because of, unfortunately, the people who have lots of money and shit like that. They're the ones that are only going to be able to go, unfortunately. But it's also unfortunately the fans' fault too. Like, the fans this is where the smarks are at fault. Because you're still buying in money for this shit. Like, you wonder why no one's gonna you wonder why they're not gonna change for the better. It's because the same fans that praise the modern WWE with, the smarts, that they're praising all these indie garbage, all these smarky indie shit. They're praising Triple H's cooking and shit like that. They're praising all the, they're smarks. A lot of these fans are smarks. They're fans of all these nobodies. Like, for example, I have family over for Memorial Day weekend. We were watching SmackDown and the Knicks game. SmackDown, they couldn't recognize any of the new people anymore. And it's like, what is this shit? And they don't even care. WWE does not care about storylines and characters and all that. And I mean, why should they now? Because they don't care. They only care about, unfortunately, just because they're going to get that guaranteed money. They're going to get the guaranteed money from, like, the TV deals and whatever. But again, watch. That's going to come back to bite you. You're going to end up being like freaking BlackBerry, for God's sakes. Because, watch. People are going to lose their money. The fans are going to lose their money and no longer be able to afford the show. They won't come. Netflix, in a few years, will drop WWE because of the low ratings. Same thing with the USA Network and all that. You're gonna lose. You're gonna eventually not. Sure, they're gonna rely on like whatever next TV deal that's able to fool. Because that's what Dirty does. They fool TV deals to promise them like any special TV deals. Like, hey, let's say this. If for some reason Dirty leaves the USA Network, they could easily like fool like Hallmark, for crying out loud, because they'll say, hey, we're gonna have Stone Cold, we're gonna have The Rock on the shows now. But nope, that's not true. That's not what they're gonna do. They're not gonna have The Rock and Stone Cold on the show. They're not gonna have them full time. You're gonna only have them there because just to make, hey, this is what you can expect for future wrestling shows, and then they're gonna go back to just being a boring show with no characters, no stories, or at least like terrible storylines with wrestlers who don't draw a freaking dime, don't have star power. It's going to be a boring, just glorified indie show. That's what it is. It's going to be a glorified indie house show where, hey, it's just this certain stupid so-and-so wrestler going to wrestle, and, I'm going to be a best wrestler in the world, and they're going to do flipping kicks and bullshit. That's what wrestling's going to be in the future. And that's what WrestleMania is going to be in the future, unfortunately. Watch, like, oh, man, it's sad. It's also kind of scary. Like, the love of wrestling will die. The love of wrestling, the popularity would die. Because eventually, that's when people are going to realize. But as long as WWE gets the sponsors, they get the freaking promised TV deals, because they're able to fool people with that, unfortunately. And also, the unfortunate reality that international shows are a thing. And that's how they're making money, because WWE is wanted internationally. I would understand why people would want to be international, because again, yes, America, we're kind of spoiled. I get it. But at the same time, like, why would you want a freaking shitty wrestling show where it doesn't have the same stars as years ago? Like, why would you want a terrible WWE that doesn't have the stars? You know what I mean? But because, it's WWE, that's what they can sell on. Like, hey, WWE's going to be the first time in France and, Germany and Australia. Like, that's how they can advertise, unfortunately, And unfortunately, it doesn't help that the modern fans, that they're gonna fucking eat this shit up and be sheeps, because, they're at fault for why wrestling sucks. Oh, why can't you just, why you have to shit on wrestling? Cause just watch it. And okay, well, it's hard to watch when the show sucks. I'm sorry, I'm not a fucking sheep and calling out the fucking truth. So that's what I have to say. Unfortunately, with this news with WrestleMania and the future of wrestling is probably dead. Watch, like, this is what going to lead to a lot of fans. Like, years ago, was 30 million people watching wrestling. Same thing then, it was like 20 to 10, because unfortunately, the lack of effort by WWE in wrestling and kind of like originality, it's been kept dying for a long time. Now, WWE averaged 1.5 million people, for crying out loud, for a wrestling show, for a Monday Night Raw, a Friday Night SmackDown. Even, again, it doesn't matter, even on Netflix. You're on Netflix internationally, and people are refusing to watch your show, for crying out loud. And you're gonna say, this is the best time to be a fan? It's not. Nobody's watching. That's the only way you're making money, because nobody's watching. That's why you're inflating the fucking prices. Fuck. This is why wrestling sucks, man. Like, because it's not even for, like, it's not entertaining, and there's like ways to make everyone happy. Why not actually make a good wrestling show, and then you'll actually make money like that? Even more money, along with your sponsorships and your deals. You would actually get better deals if you were a better wrestling show. Maybe if you were a good show, you would actually make more money. But no, you're just advertising because, you're the brand WWE. Good for you. And you're relying on nostalgia. If anything, WWE's relying on nostalgia to keep their show going. That is the only reason too. They're relying on nostalgia. That's all they can do in order to save their company. But watch what happens when, unfortunately, we lose more nostalgia. We lose, unfortunately, like Sabu just passed away weeks ago, for crying out loud. Watch when we sadly lose. I don't want it to happen, but watch. Unfortunately, we live in a world where, like, people are going to die, okay? We're not going to have all the time in the world to have a Hulk Hogan and a Stone Cold and a Ric Flair and a The Undertaker and, all these people that can help save wrestling. They unfortunately are getting older. They're not going to be able to walk as they can, Like, the last wrestling star, unfortunately, was Roman Reigns. John Cena is retiring, and Roman Reigns is like the only star now. Brock Lesnar is canceled. There's no stars anymore. It's like, fuck. They're all gonna retire soon, and then that's gonna be just freaking boring wrestler number one and boring wrestler number two. Just gonna have a fucking 45-minute Meltzer match, and that's also why WWE doesn't care anymore. They don't care like if the wrestlers want to appeal to Dave Meltzer, because they'll just do it. That's another problem. They'll appeal to Dave Meltzer now because that's what they'll do. Because WWE clearly doesn't care. They're just gonna appeal to the Smarky fans. So they appeal to the Smarky fans because that's the only fan base they have, which is like retarded. So they might as well do it. But then they're gonna also like have these investors and sponsors just be and they'll have those people there and the influencers, and that's what's gonna happen for WrestleMania. We're living in the dark age, folks. The dark age of wrestling is coming. The wrestling we knew and love is dying day by day. And it's been dying since, like, if you really think about it, since 2008. This is why when people say WWE sucks since when they went PG, is because of money. It's always been about money. They have sold out since 2008 by going PG and alienating their adult fans by becoming childlike. But then, they're not even like about the families. They're appealing to fucking weirdos now. And then now other than appealing to the smarky, weird, anime fans, now they're just, again, it's just feeling more so like, now they're just trying to just, hey, you guys gonna keep watching, we'll appeal to them. Now that we're not gonna appeal to casuals. We're gonna only do that occasionally just to, spike a number here and there. But then we're gonna freaking, we're gonna just rely on our sponsors and TV deals and pay-per-view deals, the site deals, all that kind of shit, That's the sad reality. I'm not saying WrestleMania will exactly be, always in Las Vegas, but that's just things they're gonna do. But unfortunately, like, that's gonna be the problem. It's gonna be more exclusive to Las Vegas probably because of TKO, as long as they're around. And not only that, it's just gonna be sad, man. It's gonna be a sad time. And then like WrestleMania is gonna be like in all these other cities, but it's gonna be high prices. They might again get New Orleans again, sure, and other states, but it's could be rare probably. Again, this is all just whatever. Again, we don't know for sure with Las Vegas, but that's most likely the case, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, it's just messed up that, you just say, hey, we're no longer going to be in New Orleans. Like, you can't just do that. I'm sorry. It's just, there's no ethic in that. That's just dumb. Like, you could have literally just waited the next year. The next year. Like, literally, the next year, WrestleMania 43, for God's sakes. If they're the highest bidders, supposedly. Whatever. I don't know. WWE's just greedy now. It's just greedy. You're taking advantage of the terrible economy we have now because of Bidenomics and whatever, right? With inflation being so bad, you're taking advantage. And unfortunately, this is what big business do. This is what Netflix is doing. They've been doing that. And for all these people that are saying, oh, it's Trump's fault. That's not true. Netflix been planning to inflate their prices. Same thing with all these corporations. And unfortunately, WrestleMania is taking advantage of it, even though supposedly, again, WWE is supposedly supposed to be right wing, but they're taking advantage of it because of money in the end of the day. And that's the sad part. That's the sad reality. They're taking advantage of the inflation issue. They're going to blame it on that, but then no, they're just being greedy. That's the sad reality. So that's my thoughts on the whole news of WrestleMania no longer being in New Orleans and the future of WrestleMania, future WWE as we know it. It's sad. Greed has ruined WWE for the worst. Till next time. Peace. Yeah, bye. One more thing I want to butt in this video. So a lot of people are saying that probably New Orleans decided to cancel WrestleMania because of how bad WrestleMania was and how they didn't have The Rock there. I think that is not true. I do think that's not true. Because The Rock, listen. Rock did not show up at WrestleMania 39. He did not show up at other WrestleManias where people would hope to see The Rock, WrestleMania 38 or whatever. That's not the truth. Okay, WrestleMania can easily sell us out even without The Rock because of the name value. And there's still cities that want WrestleMania. So the idea that New Orleans does not want WrestleMania is not true. They clearly want WrestleMania. Like, they had WrestleMania 34, The Rock was not there. So that's clearly, like, just the opposite. The reality is, unfortunately, WWE decided to switch on New Orleans because they saw a better deal that they have with other cities that are bidding, and basically treated New Orleans like leaving like some host shit. That's the truth.